Rahubat, Rahubat, greetings, and welcome to another session of Ask Us Three Questions. And, you can film yourself asking us three questions and upload your questions or your video to osmvision.wetransfer.com. The link is in the chat below. And we'll be able to answer your questions. So my name is Saken from OSM Vision. Ask us anything. So let's get to the questions for today.
Rahubat second and the Wu-Sabat family. This is Terry Jamal, Tehuti Akenreye. I'm sending in my questions from Zambia, and I joined Wu-Sabat in September. Actually, I started watching the OSM Visions like since the first video, and I've never missed a video. And just from the time I watched, that's the information resonated with me. That's how I went through the process into joining. So my three questions for today are: my first question is, how do the spirits of nature influence the balance of life? How does the spirit of nature influence the balance of life?
Okay, yes, thank you, Terry Jamal. I'm sure you call in on the live as well, and I'm glad that you've been hooked ever since your first video, and you're calling all the way from Zambia as well. That means Wu-Sabat is really, spreading and is reaching the four corners of the world. Before I answer the question of how does the spirit of nature influence life, I just wanted to clarify you saying you've joined Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is our culture, so it's our way of life. So you're joining the family and becoming a member of a community in your local area, or if there isn't one in your local area, then you're becoming an online part of an online community. And we want to let everyone around the world know that, yes, you can become a member of our community even if you don't have a local store or temple near you. If you do, we encourage you to go to your nearest bookstore, temple, so that you can actually participate in many things that go on. All right. Yes, in terms of spirit, the spirit of nature, the word nature itself finds its roots in ancient Egypt as the word netiru. Okay, this is where the word nature comes from, netiru. And these beings that are referred to as the netiru, or the deities, they were the ones that in ancient Egypt were basically connected to nature, and they gave reverence to nature in the form of the sun, in the form of water, in the form of air, and the elements. Our ancestors, that is, they knew that the sun provided life, and so they gave respect and reverence by raising their hands up to the sun, and it was referred to as Ra. Ra or Ray, or it became Roy, depending on the different pronunciations. So you would hear the word Amun Ra or Ray. We say Reye in the proper tone of Misbatia or Nuapik, Sabaik, as known to many people. So because these beings recognized nature was important, you will hear words such as Tamu Nefu Set, okay? Ta meaning Pata, or relating to earth. Mu or Ma, before Mu we would say Nefu or Shu. These are words that are related to the air or to the wind. And then you have Tefnut, which would be moisture. So when you hear Tamu Nefu Set, the set related to the sun. And because you need, at the very basic level for life and nature, when you're talking about spirit, we're going to go into a bit of that which deals with energy. You need those three. You need the soil, you need fertile soil for that matter, because when you're a farmer and you're growing things, you can't just grow things anywhere. You have to have the right conditions and the right land. So when the land is fertile, you can then plant seeds. And then you need water to water the seeds, and then you need the sun to help grow. So we use words like tamu nefuset relating to those elements, or words like tamare, again tama or ta relating to the earth, ma or mu relating to the water, and re again relating to the sun. So when we're saying the spirit of nature, we know that everything vibrates. Everything is ultimately energy. So by you being in tune with nature, you will vibrate on that same resonant frequency, which people refer to as the spirit. And so everything in life, animals, trees, rocks, they vibrate. And when you say vibration, you're dealing with movement, because everything moves, all right? And so the movement is like sound. Yes, sound becomes light. And when you look at light, there are different forms of light. So we look at the light within you, known as the solar plexus, which is actually one of your superimposed or at the same place of one of your chakras. And the sun is what maintains life. So the sun is very, very important. So your solar plexus within you is what keeps you alive, because it's responsible for the burning. When we say the burning, it's because that's a real live fire within you. So you're taking in air, going back to the elements, you're breathing air or oxygen, and that oxygen is burnt, and then you breathe out carbon dioxide. Carbon is a residue of burning, to show you that this process is what's keeping you alive. It's like the fuel that is actually keeping you alive. And so when you breathe on your hand, if you was to go, you will actually feel the heat. And that live fire within you is responsible for you staying alive and the amount of breaths that you take. So another way of defining your life is how many breaths do you have? And there's a whole science to breathing and pulling the nutrition from the air. All right. So you know that there's a fire, because when people cross over or be, unalived, something called rigor mortis sets in, where the body starts to get cold and it gets stiff, because that movement is no longer there to keep you animated. And this is when people say you're no longer breathing and you're pronounced to be unalived. And whatever was inside of you has left. That's dealing with that energy, that solar plexus converting this, the energy you're calling the spirit, or the nafs. When you go into the scriptures, you're looking at the word nafs or nafish, yeah, which deals with the breath of life. Okay, so when you say how does the spirit, connects with or influences life, that's how it does it. And we have to be in tune with nature, and everything that is healthy in nature is vibrant. It's got the green color. We were once green ourselves. So if you look at the pictures of Osiris in ancient Egypt, he's depicted with a green complexion. And that's because, he was a product of nature. And we are brown now because we're rusting because of the conditions that the air that we're breathing is not as pure. And plants have chlorophyll. And we, because of, the magnesium or the deficiency of it, we are actually now breathing in more unhealthy air, for a simple way of putting it. So yeah, I hope that's really answered your question. So the Neteru we refer to as nature, or the beings of nature. This is why, the planet and things alive are referred to as Mother Nature, because we come from obviously the mother, and she's responsible for nature. All right, let's hear the next question.
My second question will be, which is quite a bit similar to the first one, how does the energy of nature influence our emotions, thoughts, and actions? Okay.
Okay, so how does the energy of nature influence our thoughts and our action? Again, that's a really good question, because when you say the word thoughts, as in thinking, that word thought comes from the word thoth, which comes from the word Tahuti, because Tahuti is the greatest scribe in ancient Egypt, and he's depicted with the ibis bird. When you see his mask, or when his face mask, he's got that ibis bird kind of mask, and that's because the beak is a quill, and this quill is what he used as a pen to write and record most of the knowledge on the planet. So when you're dealing with thoughts, you're actually really dealing with the information or the knowledge that you're receiving, either by way of things you've already stored in your conscious and subconscious mind, or things that you're receiving and pulling from distance and from different dimensions in terms of your ancestors, because you're entangled with them. This is where the notion of quantum entanglement comes from, right? And so you're able to think, but if you're not thinking correctly, you're not going to act properly. So when you say how does it influence your thoughts, yeah, it's based on every action that you take comes from a thought that you've had. And that thought, if it's not right, you're going to do things in the wrong way, known as wrong knowledge, because you have duality in everything. So you have right and you have wrong. You got right knowledge and you have wrong knowledge. And if you're operating on right knowledge, that's one level. That right knowledge will then lead you to right wisdom, because you're now doing things wisely. You're not just doing things for the sake of it, or you don't know why you're doing things. This is why with the OSM vision, with Wu-Sabat, we ask people to ask us anything so that you can get the correct information and then apply it in your life. And now you're using wisdom, yeah? And once you're wise enough, then you go to the next level, which is overstanding, yeah? Which means now you're not looking at things with understanding, where these things are above you, or you don't understand them, you don't get it. So by rising to overstanding, you now over those things. And then with that, you go to the next level, which is sound right reasoning. So then when you act, everything is sound. The word sound, not only in terms of audible sounds, but as in foundational, is strong, is sound. And so you're using sound and then right, the reasoning. Yeah, so you're not gonna act and behave in a way that doesn't make sense. So that's how thoughts in nature, and you're remembering that there are those who came before you, and they have actually grown and have developed, and they're now so advanced that you're on the same journey, but they're just way advanced. So our ancestors, the Natharu, which became the Tiru, they are like 100,000 light years ahead of us in terms of their advancement. And that might sound a bit kind of hard for people to digest, but when you think about the fact that you're only using a small percentage of your brain at the moment, less than 10%. So imagine if you were using the full capacity, what you would be able to do. So you're still able to connect with these beings by way of your mind. This is why the mental realm is where everybody connects to, or something called a mental reservoir. So that's why Wu-Sabat is here to eradicate and give you correct information so that you can apply it in your life and become a better person. So you then start to look at things from a different angle. So you're looking at like humanity. You're not just focused on selfish things for yourself, just me, myself, and I. You start to think about your actions and how that has an effect on other things and other people. And the more of us that are doing this, the more we're changing the vibration, the energy on the planet. Because ultimately, it's about energy, and the more of us that are thinking and acting and doing the right things, the better the world is going to be. So we always say Wu-Sabat is about truth, facts, world peace. All right, so let's move on to your last and final question.
Okay, and then my third and last question is, what is the relationship between suffering and growth in the journey of life? This ties into like for example, in my experience, prior to me leaving religion and becoming a member of Wu-Sabat, I underwent certain things, certain stuff, okay, certain things which I would say, or what I would term catalysts, which really made me to make that conscious decision to move. So, in this context, is suffering part of our pre-incarnative choices which we make before incarnating here, or is it just one way of nature trying to bring us to the right path? So, like, what's really the relationship between suffering and the journey of one's life? Thank you.
Okay, so the last question is, what is really suffering, and is suffering by design as a part of the growth of life? Yeah, that's a very good question. The first, I mean, it's kind of both. The first part would relate to, what do you consider suffering? Because when you talk about suffering, people will think, or if you research or Google it, it's going to talk about pain and being distressed, stress. So those words are subjective as well. So what might be painful to one person might not be painful to another person. And in terms of, if you're coming from a religious background and perspective, then suffering will always be tied into, you know, what Jesus went through, because he was suffering and he came to suffer and to remove the sins from the world and things like that. And so in relation to life today, you don't have to suffer in the way that, you know, the things that bring you about stress and poverty and not having things. Because if something you consider to be stressful, you can eliminate it. Firstly, by the way you think, by your outlook in life and your mind, because some people enjoy going to the gym and pushing themselves, you know, to see what their potential is. And they say, no pain, no gain. So if you have an outcome that you're trying to achieve or accomplish, then you're not looking at it as suffering. So it's really a matter of perception. However, in terms of discipline, in terms of why you come back again, if you've been here before, it's more for you to learn and to master and to overcome challenges, so that you don't have to come back, because you keep coming back to experience things that you haven't mastered or graduated from. So this is the concept of burning out your desires. And if you're somebody who is focusing on spiritual practices, and by spiritual practices we mean things that feed your spirit and not your physical body. And most of the time, if you look at when people are sick or have disease, which is dis-ease, it's a lot to do with what they're doing to their physical body. So for example, fasting might be considered a spiritual practice. It's also a health practice, because by fasting, you help to eliminate toxins and poisons and things that you've ingested over a period of time. So it's a way of cleansing. But somebody else might look at fasting like, oh, I can't eat all day, I'm suffering. But, that's what I meant by how you look at things. It's a matter of your perspective. Is the glass, I always say, is the glass half empty or half full? And so the Bible or the religious books will tell you about trials and tribulations, meaning that you don't know what you're capable of unless you push yourself, and you don't know your potential. So the master teacher, Partner Babianun, Dr. Malachi Zio, put out a book called Your Potential and another one called The Mind, because you have to take control of your physical body by way of your mind and your mentality. And you hear the phrase like mind over matter, because you have the ability to think and make yourself not look at things as a suffering. However, it is challenging because how many press-ups can you do, for example, right? If you were to answer that question, you might say 10, 20. But then if somebody says, can you do 100 press-ups? How are you going to know until you try? And the more you push yourself, the easier it becomes. So you'll be able to do 10, 20, 30, 50, and then 100. And someone else can only barely do 5. So it's a combination of both to answer your question. One is nature helping you to overcome the things that you need to learn and master before leaving here, so that you can move on to the next stage. Because, you learn from cradle to grave. There's so much to learn on this realm that you never really stop learning. So, but once you've graduated from this realm, there are other things to learn in other realms. So you have to prepare yourself. So that, it's a combination of both, nature helping you and you yourself. The journey is to try, one of the purposes of life is to try and push yourself to find out your hidden potential. And your hidden potential, or the word potent, when you look at the word potential, is dealing with that potency to be able to, do anything by way of your potential. And so, yes, you have to also tap into your hidden potentials. And this is where Wu-Sabat comes in, because the more you learn, the more you start to apply, the more of your brain you start to utilize, and it just helps you to grow. So either way, growth is to take something, and expand it or grow it. Yeah, that's what creation is. That's the meaning of creation, is to grow. So you have to grow. You can't remain stagnant. And in religion and in the information that you're being taught by people who can only take you so far, means that you can't move any further, So I hope that's answered that question for you. All right, until the next time, I'm going to say Tawukum. Thank you all. And if you would like to send your 3 questions, remember, use your mobile phone, film yourself, try and get as good quality as possible, good lighting, and upload your video with your 3 questions to osmvision.wetransfer.com. Until the next time, Wadu.